yes, it is very difficult to access information about the industry, but we're currently only tracking 144 businesses. Something we expect to change in time. But one thing to say about China, there are not many businesses. They are also very B2C focused. They are also very much in the marketplace and portal sector, something to be interested in. Let me just give you now a little bit more of an analysis around cities. Often people think market around this area. I was actually surprised that in fact it's London. London has nearly 550 businesses in itself. And then, it's not America, it's Paris. Paris comes in second. So realise America has the largest, but it's not necessarily the centre of the world if you're looking at which markets are the most progressive. But one thing needs to be remembered at all times. Regardless of America having 2,000 businesses, regardless of London being the epicentre of the PropTech market, PropTech companies, whether they are in Santiago in Chile or Sydney, Australia, they all offer the global solution, potentially. What you have to realise is a business in Buenos Aires can have the same impact on a building in London as it does in Buenos Aires. So look at how you can expand. Look at your international markets. Understand the solution you have built can easily impact lives of other people all over the world. And with that in mind, I think there are three considerations that I'd like you to think about when you're looking at PropTech. Really, it's constrained in my mind by three things. Legislation. Legislation around the world has a considerable impact on the expansion and the understanding language has probably the most significant impact of all. Do you build it in Spanish, for example, in Argentina, where perhaps your market is a little bit more constrained, or do you build it with an English mindset, which perhaps is a universal business language? The last thing is the liberties. We're also seeing in a lot of the PropTech businesses that understanding the person and understanding the liberties that we have, and we've seen a considerable backlash against technology firms in the last few years, understanding the person and the person's data, and making sure you are very transparent about the benefits they receive and will make your business different and better than others. And equally, it will probably help you with those other two aspects, language and legislation, in terms of your expansion plans. So, just quickly, some global trends into 2020, if you are considering that growth. Europe is always going to struggle, if I am honest, with those three areas of legislation, language and liberties. Europe has very small countries with considerable real estate markets, but there's lots of little silos of markets and companies being built for the local market. It will struggle to get outside of international barriers if people are looking at global solutions. But in particular, if you like certain technologies, look at Central Europe, who have a considerable expertise around big data, analytics, artificial intelligence. Something to consider. We've talked about the US. Funding is going to increase, in my view, in the US market. Much more Series B and Series C investments. But I do think that America has a very insular approach in terms of its expansion outside of geographical boundaries. The market is simply so big, they don't necessarily need to think about moving to different countries, but I would encourage them to do so. If you look at Australia, and I've had the great pleasure of travelling to Australia on many occasions for the PropTech industry, they are a natural exporter of, and they have an expansion mindset and a growth mindset when they're building their businesses because they're so far away from everybody else. And I would also say that that comes back a little bit to Asia. Asia is also an exporter. I would argue China is a natural exporter of technology, more in the form of hardware technology than software technology. But they're a very private player in the property market. You don't hear very much about what they're doing. South Africa and Nigeria are natural hot. 1% of the property technology market around the world. So with that, I just want to focus on South America for a second.